Good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Harris from Jet Closing. I wanted to say thanks. We are now on our fourth show, which means we've actually survived doing this for an entire month or 30 days. You can see I'm losing hair right and left on it. So probably by the eighth show, I'm going to be completely bald. But we are having a good time doing this. We are having some really, really good views, and we actually are getting some subscribers on our YouTube channel. So we want to reach out and thank everybody who's watching our show, and of course the audience. And always feel free to subscribe to our show on YouTube. We always bring out new content every week. And we have a Facebook group for you to be able to join too, where there's a lot of good information. Without further ado, I'm going to stop holding everything up, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Jet Closing. You're actually taking a look at what the Jet Closing app or the desktop program does. And one of the most popular features of our app is this here, the progress bar. Nice thing about the progress bar is it's going to tell you everything that's going on with your transaction, including the history, as far as when we first started getting all of those things done to where we completed it. You're always going to see clear to close. And the good thing about us is that we do keep your documents for 7 years. You can see here in the document repository. So there's no more anywhere looking around for a document or anything like that. If you have any issues from the association, we're always going to keep them for you there in the app, so you can always have access to them. Thank you so much. That's Steve Harris from Jet Closing. Looking forward to working with you, and I'm going to shift it over to Vince. Vince, take it away.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Vince Mazzacco. I'm an independent mortgage broker covering Arizona and California. As an independent broker, rates and fees are super, super low for the buyers and the consumers and all that good stuff. So keep us in mind for the future. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys here, do another market update like I do each week. And let's see if I shared correctly. Can you see my screen with the Word document? So first of all, let's talk about the inflation front. So CoreLogic, CoreLogic does a lot of real estate data analysis. So they came out with a single family rent report, and it came in at 12% increase year over year. And this is obviously, part of what's driving our housing demand, right? So, and this was new rentals. CoreLogic does new and renewals. And then there's the apartment list rent index, which came in at 18% increase year over year. And this just looks at new rents. So new rentals versus, versus both. So we can see, that the demand is there, right? People need houses, whether it's to purchase or just in the renting space. Case-Shiller, which is the gold standard, was actually released today. The home price index rose 0.9% in December, which puts us at 18% year over year, and this is unchanged from last month. So appreciation remains at high levels, despite the facts that rates, have risen. Leading the way, Phoenix 33%, Tampa 29%, and Miami at 27%. And the three lowest markets were Chicago, Minneapolis, and what was the third one? And they were in at 11%. So still really hot numbers for the lowest cities that were analysis. Geez, I can't speak. Okay, so next thing that came out, producer price index. This is the producers, right? This is the corporations or the companies that are making the products. This came out for January, and month over month, it was also up 1%. And it's sitting at 9.7% on a year over year basis. So the producer price is saying, hey, our pricing is up 10% year over year. And the core report, which strips out some food and energy, was only up just a little bit less than 0.8%. And that's a 12-year high. Now, this report has a tendency to not get a whole lot of respect because producers can pass this inflation onto the consumer, but they don't necessarily always do it. But we have shortages across the board. Doesn't matter what it is. The biggest thing is semiconductors, right? Semiconductors are in everything, right? I mean, they're in remote controls. I mean, they're literally in everything, right? If you got an electronic device, it has a semiconductor. So, and we have two huge plants being built right here in Phoenix. One's going to have 5,000 employees in the southeast portion of the valley, and one's going to have about 2,500 employees in the north portion of the valley. So, but of course, those are, several years down the road. So, they won't be any help to alleviate the semiconductor shortage. Okay, so let's compare then and now. So in regards to market stability, we hear a lot of people talk about, hey, is the market going to crash and all that good stuff. So let's go back to 2005. Let's go back then. Vacancy factors were high and rising compared to what do we have right now, right? We've got, increasing 18% and 12%, depending which one you're looking at. And back then, a third of all loans were either Alt A or subprime, which was minimal type of documentation. Today, vacancy factors are low and falling. Almost every loan is fully documented income-wise in some way, shape, or form, bank statements or otherwise. There's 10 million more families looking for 3 million less homes on the market. I should have stuck that in here. Back in, actually a decade ago, we had 3.5 million homes on the market. Today we have about 970,000 homes on the market. So we have 10 million more families vying for 3 million less homes.
Are those national numbers?
These are national numbers, yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
So while rates are up, the average rate over the last 10 years is 4.1%, which is about where we're at today. So let's see what's that doing to the consumer's buying power. If we take 2.75 from just a few short 4 or 5 months ago to maybe 4.25 where we're at now, let's consider somebody's making $100,000 of income, and that is divided by 12. That's their monthly income of $8,300. Principal and interest at 2.75. This is based on a $350,000 loan amount, which is about the average size loan here in the Valley. Principal and interest was $1,425 compared to $1,721. Their debt ratio changed 3 percentage points, 17. So this is not impacting, this rise in interest rate is not impacting somebody's ability to borrow, right? Because we're only taking a percentage. So even though it looks like a huge change, this isn't changing people's ability to, now somebody that's at a 49 debt ratio, maybe it pushes them up over 50, but in general for their housing expense is not changing that much as a percentage of their gross income, right? 3%.
Gotcha.
Okay, so what do we got coming up? This is such a huge thing here. If Russia invades Ukraine. So Russia doesn't want Ukraine to join NATO, which is part of the pressure, right? Because if Ukraine joins NATO, now they supposedly have the military backing of the 30 NATO nations, right? And the reason this is problematic for the rest of the world is Ukraine has a lot of natural resources. They've got uranium, iron, magnesia, shale gas. They have like 75% of the shale gas, coal, sunflower oil, and so on. And I'm not just talking about small percentages. I mean, talking they're in the top 2% of magnesium. They're in the top 2% of iron. So they're sending a lot of this stuff out, to the rest of the world. So Russia invades, we could see a spike in energy prices, which of course will impact inflation. Got the China and Russia leaders that are professing love for one another, and we know what our relationships look like with China. So just overall, it's not good, for the economy because it creates uncertainty. So, and right now, let's bring up today's market. So right now we are, how am I doing on time?
We've got about 10 seconds left.
Okay. All right. So here's the market. Mortgage bonds, remember, as the price of bonds fall, interest rates go up. So we had these falls, and now we've come to this floor of support. So this is a floor. Look how many times we've come down to this floor and touched it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Broke through it, almost touched it, bounced above it. So this floor has turned out to be a good floor of support. So maybe rates will hold. If Russia invades Ukraine, we could see a bounce in price because uncertainty in the equity markets will sell off, and then the money usually gets parked in bonds, which would improve interest rates or at least stabilize them a little bit. So that's our market update.
It'll be interesting to see from what you presented today, Vince, what will happen in a week.
Right.
Especially with the uncertainty with what's going on with Russia, and how much it's going to affect energy prices and things like that. So I'm looking forward to kind of what happens next week with the baseline that you set this week. But thank you very much. It's an impressive market update.
Thank you.
Jeremy, we're off to you.
All right. Hey, everybody. Jeremy Crudup from Fairway Independent Mortgage. Like the name says, we do things the fair way. So I'd love to be your loan officer. Feel free to reach out. I actually wanted to touch on a little bit of what Vince had said. I actually had some similar stuff, so let me just do a little screen share here real quick. Okay, so what we have here is a little bit touching on what Vince had said, is that although there is a lot of uncertainty, we're also seeing some records being set with purchases. The average purchase size now has hit a record of 453,000 as a nationwide average. So, obviously two of these factors being the spike in home prices and the upward tick in interest rates. Similar to what Vince was saying, some of this uncertainty is going to add to that factor. But like he said, it's not stopping people from buying homes. One of the things I want to highlight is, and Vince touched on this a little bit, is how home affordability has compared now to 2000s and everything in between. Now, the housing market's a great place to put your money because it typically grows slightly higher than inflation. It's one of the reasons so many people like to put their money into homes, and why it's the #1 place people put for their retirement. Now, this graph shows a little bit of home affordability between 2000 and 2022. And as you can see, it's gone up and down quite a bit. We do see a little spike right here during the housing crash, as we're all pretty aware of. That was a terrible time for everybody. But as you can see, the comparisons of payments of percent of income and their monthly payments are staying kind of in line. We've kind of crossed that plateau of monthly payment that was in 2006, but we also have to keep in mind that inflation has raised, wages have increased. So this graph doesn't really illustrate entirely. This is more of a accurate graph of home affordability based upon the years in the past. And if you see, 2021, the last year we just went through, was right smack in the middle. So we're not at the most expensive time to purchase, and we're also not at the best. We're still right in the middle. So we hear a lot of fear, a lot of worry about the market. But another thing to keep in mind is it's not 2007. I don't think there's going to be a bubble. And Vince kind of touched on this earlier as well, is that the lending standards have changed, okay? Back then, we're sending out some crazy loans that were not vetted. People were just getting no-doc loans, and all that is gone now due to the crash. We're now way more regulated, and lending standards are tighter, so the borrowers that are purchasing homes are more qualified to continue purchasing and making their payments. Also, demographics are driving demand, not speculation. Like Vince was saying, it's the number of homes necessary for people to live in that are driving this demand. And it's a shortage of homes, not oversupply, right? There's just not enough homes out there. There's not enough homes being built. There's more Americans than ever, and everybody needs a place to live. So, all these perfect storm items are creating what we're seeing in the market right now. And one thing I want to kind of stress with everyone as I get off sharing, one thing I want to stress with everyone is to not be afraid, okay? It's still and it will always be a great time to buy a home, okay? We hear a lot of these numbers that there's going to be a bubble, or I'm sure we've all heard, I'm going to wait till the bubble breaks, right? Well, I can personally say from experience that I bought a home about a year ago, and I didn't buy at the best time, but I also bought at before now, and in the 1 year, I've personally gained about 50,000 in equity. And every single person that can buy a home is going to get some equity in their house. I can't stress it enough that a lot of it comes down to decision making, right? I was having a conversation with Steve earlier today, and Ryan as well, about decision making. Before the show, that if it's important to you, you'll find a way to buy a house. You don't need to go out to eat. You don't need that fancy new iPhone. You don't need, what's important to you is where to live. So I just kind of want to hammer that home a little bit. Also, one more little hack I wanted to throw out there that I heard today. If you are looking to purchase a home and you're currently renting, one of the nice things to do would maybe be to reach out to your landlord. This person may have owned their home for a while. They may have a lot of equity in it. And who wouldn't want to sell to somebody that's already been a great renter when they want to exit the home, making the process a bit easier? Maybe Rick can touch a little bit on that as far as if that's something he's seeing at all. But yeah, guys, thank you for the time, and I appreciate this show, and thank you to everyone who's watching.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was a good segment talking about affordability. I think that it's interesting because of all of the articles that we've heard about how out of reach buying a house is right now. looking at your affordability chart, we're actually kind of mid-range, is what
That's
that
exactly
chart
the
shows.
point. Yep.
So I
Thank
think
you.
that's very, very interesting, and thank you for sharing. Rick, it's up to you.
All right, great. Well, I am going to just share my screen here real quick, but I totally agree. I have been through a lot of markets. I've been doing this since '95, and I have seen a lot of markets, and I'm not worried about this one at all. This one looks great. 2007, 2008 was a nightmare, but we made it through it, and we're still here, and got stronger afterward. And I don't see anything happening now that's remotely like that. Matter of fact, I believe we're going to be seeing a good, at least a strong market through about 2025, barring any crazy stuff. And even if rates go up to 7-8%, I'll be in my wheelhouse because I sold more houses at 7 and 8% than I sold any houses. So the way I look at it is 3 or 4%. That's just a cakewalk. I'll take it while we have it. But you know what? If we have to shake some of the trees and get some of the agents who really don't know how to sell out by raising the rates, fantastic. And that's going to leave all of us who are in the business for real to hang out and really make our money when the market turns down a little bit. And what I want to talk about today, I know my segment is all about helping agents, right? Helping agents become successful. It's kind of a coach's corner. That's what I do. I coach real estate agents. I try to help you be more successful. So that's what I do here. I just kind of pick a tidbit, and I do a breakfast club every morning, and I put that link into our chat as well on Facebook group. But it's just a reminder every day of what we should be doing to be successful. And what I have to really focus on is the follow-up. Follow-up is where the fortune is. This is a chart that I use in my coaching, that when I talk about what you need, what real estate sales should look like. Very first thing down here, you have your brain game. Once you have your brain game right, you have the knowledge, the positivity, understand that you have to be consistent at everything you do, think abundantly instead of in a scarcity mindset, have tenacity and integrity in your life when you're working in real estate. Each one of those is a class on their own, right? Each one we could talk 30 minutes on each one of those things. However, you want to make sure you're ready to take on this business and then do what you have to do, even when you don't feel like doing it. That's where the consistency and the tenacity and the integrity come in, that you have to do what's right and what you're supposed to be doing, even when you don't feel like doing it. So this is what we do. We talk to people, we follow up, we set appointments, we follow up, we write contracts, we follow up, we close the deal, follow up, and then we ask for referrals, and we follow up consistently. And so our whole life, we're walking in a mindset of follow-up, of following up with our clients, where we create the leads. Agents are obsessed with leads. And I've said that before. Agents are obsessed with getting leads, but what good is a lead if you don't do something with it, right? So the follow-up is very important. So if you don't follow up, it's like fishing without a net. I can get all the leads in the world, but if I put them in the net and there's a big hole in it, then they're just going to go right through. So I can get a lead. Most leads are not going to close immediately. It'd be really nice if they did, but they don't. And this is a very common meme here, or I guess you'd say graphic. You see it says sales statistics, and 40% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. And that we might as well insert the word realtor where it says salespeople, because it's the same thing. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop. 12% make up to 3 contacts and stop, and only 10% make more than 3 contacts. It's crazy, because I've been in a position where I would give leads to agents, and those leads would go in and they would be excited to get them, but if they don't get the instant gratification of getting someone to write a contract immediately, they forget about them. That's where what separates the good from the great, right? So if you're willing to do what you're supposed to do, which is the second half of this graphic, it says that, let's skip on down and say 2% of sales are made on the first contact, 3% are made on the second contact, and 5% are made on the third contact, which is where most agents stop. This is where what separates, again, the good from the great, is going to that 10% of salespeople sales are made on the 4th contact, but 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So that means when you have a lead and you feel like you're going to bug them because you've talked to them too many times, bug them, call them, and because they're just about ready to buy. They're just about ready to make a decision, but somebody else is going to take advantage of the time that you've followed up with them, and they're going, because you quit following up, somebody else is going to do it. So all I have to say today is remember that you want to walk in an attitude of follow-up. Follow-up is your life. Follow up, follow up, follow up. So, and what I mean by follow up, when you know somebody's said yes or maybe, follow up until you get an appointment. Follow up until they say, yes, I want to meet with you. I want to say, I want to talk to you about what I want to buy. I want to talk to you about what I want to sell. And then you follow up until you get a contract, and so on and so on. So that's all I have today, Steve. I just want to talk about that, about how important it is for agents to maintain that follow-up mindset and build relationships with people so that they don't let anything fall through the cracks. Only 2 to 5% is going to close on the first deal or the first or second deal. They have to follow up 8 to 12 times. When they follow up 8 to 12 times, that's where the money is.
And I think that's important to say, Rick, and I appreciate you bringing all of this up, because follow-up is really one of the 2 key differentiators between, like you said, good to great, right? Mm-hmm. Good versus great. And, it's amazing. And I did sales training for a long time, and I always used to teach on the concept of one more. Do one more follow-up, do one more call, do one more reach out. And if instead of saying, I've got to talk to these people 12 times, now I got to call them one more time. One more time. And also when you're following up, texting is important. Yep. Text messages is nothing else is more engaged than a text message. A text message will be read before an email. It'll be read before, and a phone call or anything like that, snail mail. Text messages, they will always get read. You may not get a response, but they will get read.
I agree with you 100%. We send and if they don't answer, I stalk them on social media, and then I will message them on Facebook. So try to get a response. We're doing our best to get a deal here, and that's if it takes talking to them and texting and messaging. Let's do it. Don't be embarrassed. Just get out there and get it done.
100%. Well, thank you, Rick. I think I'm going to start calling your segment the Coach's Corner, because I think that's an awesome branding for you. So we're going to keep it like that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Ryan from Delete Street, it is your turn. Please let us know what you want to talk about today.
Hey, so Ryan with Delete Street Credit Repair. If you're a mortgage loan officer, realtor, don't walk away from someone just because their credit score is bad. That's not money today, but 6 months to a year from now, those are going to be your customers. If your credit's terrible, reach out. My website is on the slides that you're going to see in just a moment. All right, so just back to more credit education this week. Last week we talked about the second biggest part of the FICO score pie chart, which was announced. So this week we're going to the big boy. That is the payment history. That's 35% of your credit score. Everything I'm talking about right now is just things that you can self-manage, that you don't necessarily need credit repair for. Credit repair, I work on your negative items and things that are dragging your score down, but these are things that you can just do for yourself. The payment history part, obviously important because it's the biggest. It's on 192 points in total of your FICO score, 35%. That's, if you make late payments, that's going to be the matter for a mortgage of disqualification pretty quickly. If you rack up a lot of late payments and you go try to apply for a loan, your risk to a lender is shot. So whatever you do, most important thing, just don't make late payments, especially to things that report on your credit, your car loan, your credit cards, current mortgage, student loans. Even though those are deferred right now, that's right around the corner, that's coming back. Don't let anything go 30 days late. If you do, you can see, it depends on your score, but anywhere upwards of 20, 50, 100 points just for one single late payment. It can't be predicted just based on a raw number, but I've seen 120 points go away just for one late payment. So whatever you do, just don't let anything go late, because it takes a long time to recover from. And then the other thing, I've said it before, but credit is like a seesaw. You have things on one side that are going to weigh you down. Those are your collection accounts, your late payments, but you got to have positive history too, and things that you pay on time. When you want to apply for a loan, your credit score is your risk score. So even if you don't have anything bad, if you don't have anything good, then lenders aren't going to see your ability to repay. So just if you have no history, go to your local credit union, go to any secured credit card out there, just get something, get anything that you can run up a balance on, keep it small, keep it reasonable, but just make your payments. After 30 days, you'll have a payment. After 12 months, you're going to have 12 payments, and that's on one account. And the more accounts that you have that you pay on time and you manage responsibly, you're going to start looking a lot more responsible, especially when we're talking about big money in Vegas where I am. Housing is, for a single family house, at about $400,000 or more just for a starter house. So if you want to borrow money from a bank that's going on $500,000 or more, you got to have the ability to repay it, and that's in your credit score, that's your risk score, that's your payment history. So those are my tips of the week. Just stay on top of your payments, don't let anything go late, and have something positive to add on to there.
Ryan, you shared a pretty interesting post on Facebook, I want to say over the weekend, where you are basically telling the Las Vegas market to give you their worst credit scores and you'll fix them in 12 months. How's the response on that post?
It's been a little bit slow, and it's a little bit what I expected. I don't think people are jumping out right now to share their terrible credit scores. And what I basically did, there was an article that came out that showed Las Vegas was the second lowest median city for a credit score. It was in the 520s. And that shocked me a little bit, because when I was looking at my numbers, my average customer starting credit repair for their lowest score is about 560. So I'm not even seeing the worst of the worst. So, just making an educated guess, I'm thinking that people with lower credit scores feel like their back's against the wall, that it's never going to get better, that they're never going to become a homeowner. And I want to show that inaction is the worst thing that you can do. So I'm asking for 3 people, 3 worst credit scores, 12 months free service, but there's some things attached to that. Like, I want them to have the intention of becoming a homeowner and have everything that is needed to qualify for that, like a job, debt to income ratio, and just the ambition to do it. Because from my experience, if someone comes to me and says that they want their credit fixed without a goal, they're not a good customer. They're not going to pay their bills, and they're not going to keep up their end of the bargain, because it is a team effort. I need them to keep their balances low and not let new accounts become collection accounts, things like that. So I need people that are motivated, but I want to show that sitting on your hands is the worst thing that you can do, and not taking action to improve yourself is going to keep you in the same spot forever.
Well, I think that if once you get that contest going and get the your contest winners in there, I think it'd be great to show some of the results that you're having, and
Yeah,
kind of take
absolutely.
our audience on that journey of, hey, look, here's where we started here. And I'm not saying teach our audience how to do what you do. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is just kind of keep us apprised of the journey, because I think that would be very interesting, and some interesting
Yeah, and
tidbits on your credit.
that's a lot of my intention of doing it, is both to help people, but also to use those results to show people that they don't have to stay terrible forever.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. We really appreciate your credit
You got
update.
Hey, I want to chime in something with Ryan, a dovetail off of Ryan there. I heard this statistic years ago, and I'm pretty sure it's still accurate. Of the criteria that the mortgage industry looks at from a credit risk profile standpoint, debt ratio, job tenure, assets, down payment in the house, credit score. What am I missing? I guess that's probably home stability in your residence. Take a guess what the number one criteria is as to whether or not a mortgage is going to be paid back or not. Credit score.
Yep.
Number one. Doesn't matter if you have a 5% debt ratio, $25 million in the bank. Credit score is the number one criteria as to whether or not a mortgage payment is paid back.
When
Go ahead, Jeremy.
someone else's
Yeah,
money,
I
they
can
want to
actually
make sure they're getting it back.
Yep.
I can personally vouch for Ryan. I've worked with him with some of my borrowers that weren't quite ready, and he's turned them into people who were ready. So the process does work as long as the people follow the rules. If they don't follow his suggestions, then obviously they're in the same boat. But if they listen to guidance, they'll get there. And that's kind of, I think a core part of what we're doing here is to show people the steps, that it's attainable, it's real. So yeah, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And it's not a magic process. There's, sometimes where like I can't do my part, and I ask people to pick up the phone and be big boys and girls and make a settlement. It's not all magic. It's not all things just going away. That's coaching as well.
Yep. Well, thank you so much.
I guess.
Well, guys,
Thank you.
we have our last but not least guest, and Mr. Andrew Bang. Andrew is a hard money lender both in Arizona and Nevada. Might actually get him to come out here in a couple of weeks to do a couple of things with Jet Closing. So looking forward to seeing you, Andrew, but take it away for us.
All right, thanks, Steve. Yeah, so my name's Andrew Bang. I'm a hard money lender, private money lender, and I'm with a company called Boomerang Capital. And Boomerang Capital is a real estate investment trust. We are a REIT. It's basically a big fund of investor money, and we lend out of that fund. So we're a true private money, direct lender. We keep all our loans, we service all our loans, from the beginning all the way to the end. So we're not selling any of our loans, which is and so we're able to kind of make our own rules. And one of those rules is we don't pull credit. So it's interesting to hear, Ryan and Vince talk about that part where credit's related to default loans, and here with hard money, we don't see that relationship at all. So the reason why hard money loans fails is for much different reasons, and it normally has to do with the rehab. The remodeling goes wrong somewhere, or they mistrust a contractor. Those are the reasons we see the most default loans for hard money. But along those lines, I've never pulled credit on any of my borrowers. I don't even know how to do it. I've never looked at their job history, debt to assets ratio. None of that matters. For us, it's all about the asset, and that asset is the property. What price are you buying it for? What value does it have? Is there enough room for the borrower to buy it at their number, rehab it, and sell it and make a profit? And if there is, then we're going to lend on it, no matter who the borrower is. As long as you're not currently in bankruptcy or have a foreclosure in your past, there's really no other reason why we wouldn't lend to you. So my background is not banking. It is actually in flipping. So I started flipping homes 2005, bought some rentals 2006. 2008 is when I went full-time into it. So I was at the trustee auctions every day buying properties. 2009, I had flipped 55 homes that year. That was my biggest year. I hit the 100 home point in 2011. I stopped counting. But along the way, I picked up all these strategies and private money lending. I did my first private money loan 2010. I bought a property at the trustee auction. I wholesaled it that same day I bought it to another investor for $5,000 more. Then I carried the note at 18%. And I said, that was the easiest money I've ever made, $5,000 in one day and then 18% of my money. But I didn't focus on hard money at full time at that point. I kept flipping, wholesaling. I got into buying homes direct to owner. I was doing PPC. I had billboards. I was doing direct mailers, all the different strategies that you see investors using nowadays. I've done them. And so nowadays, so 4 years ago is when I started full time into the private money side, and I partnered up with Boomerang to get the capital I needed to lend out there. So I'm now doing about 500 loans a year, anywhere from 50 to 70 loans a month. And so every realtor needs a private money lender. They need someone they can call, someone they can text that is able to give them a loan quote within 10 minutes that can close on a house in one day. I have closed on a property in 3 hours when a realtor called me up and said, hey, my buyer just got left at the closing table. The lender dropped out. We need somebody to fund. And I funded that deal that same day. That's happened multiple times. And so for a realtor, private money, hard money is used for fix and flips or fix and holds. It's used to buy distressed properties that normally a bank would not give a loan on. It's normally would only be for cash buyers. Because of that, the way my loan is set up, it is as close to a cash offer as you can get and still be a loan. If you have a buyer, you have a client that wants to get into flipping, or if you want to get into flipping yourself or buying rentals, give me a call. I'll walk you through the process. It's really easy. You'll get to know how to get a loan quote quick. I can give you a proof of funds letter. That's no problem. Those are no big deal. And then, you could use me any scenario, any strategy that's been out there about flipping homes, buying investment properties. I've done it. I've failed at it and I've succeeded at it. I'll tell you all my horror stories and all my success stories. So I put my email there in the chat. It's Andrew at boomerangcapital.com, or hit me up on Facebook or social media, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Andrew. As always, to me, I've always enjoyed the real estate investing side. And I think that's one of the things that, we need to make sure that we're distinguishing the difference of, residential real estate with the traditional method of go to a realtor, go to a mortgage person like Vince or Jeremy, get your credit repair fixed and everything else. All of that is out the window when you're talking about real estate investments. It is two separate pathways. And when you're talking real estate investments, just like you said, whether you're going to buy the house and flip it, within about 30 to 60 days, depending on what the repair timeline looks like, or if you're going to buy and hold, which means I'm going to fix it, but I'm going to throw renters in it and hold on to it for a set period of time. And then we can get more complicated with 1031 exchanges and confuse everybody, but we'll leave all that alone for right now. So that's really it for our fourth show. I wanted to say thanks for everybody for attending our fourth show. I'm really proud of how far we've come from our first one, where we were like, dude, is this thing on? And now we actually kind of halfway know we actually sound like we know somewhat what we're doing. So I know that committing to this show every week is a commitment and a drain on your time. So I appreciate each and every one of you for coming here, especially on Tuesday instead of Monday, and making the show the success that it already is. And we're getting a lot of growth. So I appreciate all you guys. And with that, thank you so much. And we'll talk again next week. Talk soon, guys.